Hey everyone, my name's Pupsker, and today in Warframe we're going over the top 10 most used, most popular primary weapons in Warframe. These are the weapons that you, the people, everyone who plays the game uses the most. So whether it's a weapon you use or not, it's definitely a popular weapon one way or another, so keep that in mind. We'll go over these top 10 weapons, we'll take a look at the stats, we'll take a look at my general casual mod setup, and we'll just talk about the weapon while we take a look at how it plays in general. Overall, I will timestamp all of the top 10 weapons, so keep that in mind if there's any specific weapon you want to jump to. So if you want to support the channel, sub-like, use Epic Games creator code Pupsker, and let's check out all of the weapons. The 10th most popular primary weapon, believe it or not, is the Phenmor. This is a Zariman Incarnate weapon, and it 100% does do a lot of damage. I think while it's regular mode, it is a one-tap, like single target shoot magazine shot, or single target tap shot assault rifle, and then when you Incarnate mode upgrade it, it upgrades and turns into a assault rifle that is automatic, that slowly, as you shoot more, slows down the attack speed, so it has a little gimmick. This is one of the really well-used favorite Incarnates because one of the Incarnate ability tabs is the thing that increases damage by 2,000%, 50% chance if you don't crit. So it does an absolute truckload of damage. All you need to do is hit headshots with it and you should be good to go. So mowing through a ton of enemies should be no problem with this weapon. You can still build it crit, of course, if you feel like it. You'll just have to change the final Incarnate tab node. So let's take a look at it quickly. You can see each Incarnate tab, right? Fire rate, some magazine capacity, some status and minus crit, and then a ton of damage, and then 50% chance, no negatives on that, just a ton of damage when it's a non-crit. Great, that's what I use on it. Here's my general upgrade path for it, for my build, right? Some Thermia, High Voltage, Malignant Force, Rhyme Rounds, Deadhead, you can change that if you want with just Merciless, Serration, Aptitude, Vigilante Armaments, and Galvanized Chamber for, as you can see, a ton of damage and 100% status chance. By default, with my current no mod build, it has a 40% status chance, right? Does 140 damage. It is primarily a slash-based rifle, like assault rifle, so it is good there, and you shouldn't have too many issues. Once you go Incarnate form, it just does more damage. It's better, right? It's stronger. It has built-in radiation, so it is very strong. Once you throw multi-shot, once you throw damage on it, oh dude, this thing absolutely slays. So would recommend, 10 out of 10. I've used it a lot, haven't used it too much this past year though. The next weapon we have is the Kuva Bramma. This was once upon a time everyone's fan favorite primary weapon, okay? When Kuva Liches came out, the Kuva Bramma was so heavily used that it had to be nerfed and things had to change. So this thing was king for a while, to be honest, but then they reduced the amount of ammo you can carry, stuff like that, etc., etc. Very sad, but it's still, these days, a very strong weapon. You just run around, shoot at enemies with enough multi-shot and damage, and they get blown out of every corner, no problem. Maybe throw on some AoE range for your explosives, right? Hey, it's up to you 100%, but the Kuva Bramma definitely earned its place now as 9th most popular. Even after the nerfs, it does a ton of damage, and the explosive AoE, it's still really good, so there are good reasons to use it still, without a doubt, okay? Without a doubt. My general build is this as follows. Ton of crit, ton of damage, right? Firestorm, voltage, cryo rounds. I have a heat status Kuva Bramma Riven, which is really good. I would rather have it crit, but it is what it is. So I have 100 munition on it, galvanized chamber, firestorm, cryo rounds, right? All that, merciless. It is a strong Kuva weapon, and since it is a Kuva weapon, you can have multiple different type of statuses on it. So that's really nice, and it is insanely good with crit. So base statuses right now, you concede, good reload, good chart. It's good overall. The crit chance, insanely good. So this is just strong as an AoE weapon because it still has good status, and it is by default electricity and impact. Okay, it's interesting. Okay, the aerial is a good radial. Sorry, is a good radial at its default 8.3. So you can understand why people like it so much. And it does electricity and blast damage on default, and a lot of it at that, right? So my Kuva Bramma isn't even maxed out with the Valence Fusion stuff, but it is still very strong overall. I'd recommend it. It's a great weapon, and I use it occasionally, but it's not my favorite AoE type weapon. So yeah, that earns the Kuva Bramma number 9. Next up, we have the Cedo. Oh, this is, I believe, Lavos's weapon, and my god, is it good. I think it just gets some more, yeah, a little bit more ammo pickups and ammo when it's with Lavos. Nothing amazing, but the Cedos itself is really freaking good, okay? It's a fast shooting, strong hitting auto shotty, and it has a secondary fire, which is really good on its own. The secondary fire shoots out a status spreading glaive. I don't think it does the most damage, but like the main attack of the Cedo does a lot of damage. So you have primary attack to just shred through enemies, and you have secondary attack in order to spread some status and still kill enemies. So status spreading and absolute killer of a weapon, nice. It gave it best of both worlds, and it has no problem tearing through regular enemies, tearing through steel path enemies, buff it up a ton, fully modded out, and enemies will be like butter to you, okay? It's a fan favorite of myself, to be honest, and I've been using it a lot these past couple of years, ever since Lavos has come out. So it is a very, very good weapon. If we take a look at my casual build, primary merciless, right? Fire, electricity, crit damage, multi-shot, crit chance, damage, fire rate, and cold, you can see this thing absolutely slaps. 5x crit multiplier, 60%, right? 5k damage base. The damage on, I think, the secondary and everything is also, yeah, really good, right? Yeah, all the damage there. Wait, this is main damage, then radial attack damage. Yeah, okay. It's kind of hard to read fire rates because I am slightly insane, but the damage per projectile, overall damage of the projectile that you shoot for status is still decent enough. It's mainly used as status spread though. That's why this attack, the secondary, has a ton of status, and this primary, right, has a ton of general damage off crit. So it does have best of both worlds. Would recommend using it. By default, it still has really good stats with a 2.4x, sorry, crit multi and a 20% chance, and the just base stats everywhere here. Really nice. Once you look at the secondary radial, you'll be like, okay, the damage off that, obviously terrible, 50% status. Okay, secondary attack that shoots out the glaive is clearly only supposed to be used to spread status. So it is a really good weapon, and if you build it up, it shreds through everything. Like the primary does a ton of damage, and then you just shoot out your secondary to throw status on enemies, so that if you want to use something like galvanized, I think the galvanized status mod, I'm never good at naming them, whether it's like galvanized savvy, yeah, galvanized savvy for shotgun, it will be insanely good. So it's a good weapon, would recommend, and if you have a chance to get Lavos in this weapon, I would do it, okay? It's a good one. Next weapon we're talking about is the Shedu. This is the beautiful sentient arm cannon, ripped from a sentient. Does a ton of damage and auto regenerates ammo, so you don't have to ever worry about ammo pickup on something like this, right? It is very good for general damage and AoE, but I don't think it's the highest individual damage type weapon. It's like a lower tier Kuva Bramma that you get earlier on in the game, right? It does good AoE, it does good damage, it has good range, but it's getting outclassed once you get later on in the game. That being said, I would say it's still usable without any fraction of a doubt, and if you still like it a lot, use it. You can give it Firestorm, you can increase its range, you can give it pure damage and just upgrade its crit. You can do whatever you want. Just, of course, try not to run into the blast radius and get knocked back or anything. That would be kind of silly. Other than that, though, you should be good to go. if we take a look at my general build, adds up to a ton of damage because I have a Riven for status, crit and crit. I know. It's a little bit of a godly Riven, but hey. So I have a good status Riven there, or damage Riven there. And then I have crit chance, hunter munitions. You could throw on more damage over that if you feel like it. Malignant Force, primed cryo rounds, vile acceleration, and then galvanized chamber for multi-shot. If you want firestorm, throw it on there. Terminal velocity, why not? And then more damage off merciless. If you look at the base stats on it, it has equally good status, crit, and the crit multiplier is a little better overall at a 2.1 crit multiplier, but the overall damage of the Shedu is a lot lower than some other weapons. It's only at 71, so that's why I'm saying it definitely gets outclassed later on by higher crit, higher damage, more explosive, but it's insanely good mid, early, and it can still be used late game, right? That's the radial fall off, 6.6 range, and built-in electricity. And then heat, by the way, is the main one. So it is very good, and it is definitely usable by pretty much anyone, but it definitely falls off because it's an easier to get, like, earlier game weapon, especially compared to those Kuva and Tenet weapons, which can be kind of a pain to get. So yeah, let me know what you think about the Shedu. I have used it, but I still use it occasionally. Oh boy, now we have number 6, the Acceltra, base Acceltra. Recently, Acceltra Prime has come out, and it is better than the Acceltra in every way, so that hopefully should replace the Acceltra. But in number 6, we have base Acceltra. Fan favorite, automatic, status / assault rifle. It was nerfed in the great ammo nerfing of 2023, but it's still a really good weapon. It has insanely good stat modifiers on its crit, and it, other than that, just does AoE. Sorry, it does impact. I think the radial maybe does slash, but it's a weird weapon, but it's a good weapon. Overall, it's a nice, lazy one where you don't have to pay too much attention on where you're shooting as long as you're shooting near enemies, right? So it is a strong, lovely, automatic AoE assault rifle. Best of both worlds. This is Gauss's signature weapon, used well with him, and I think it reloads faster, stuff like that. Other than that, you can get Acceltra Prime. So I would say, once you get the Acceltra, if you like it, get the Acceltra Prime because it is just a better variant of the Acceltra overall, but it shoots the exact same, which is just shooting impact rounds, which radial does slash as well, and puncture. So it's a weird gun, okay? But it's very good for killing enemies. If we take a look at my mod build, you might be like, oh no, oh my god, look at that crit multiplier, 8.6 with 130% chance. Insane. I have primed Shred, I have primed Cryo Rounds, I have Galvanized Chamber, Vital Sense, Crit Delay, Malignant Force, Serration, Merciless, Vigilante Supplies, and a sweet ribbon for crit chance and crit damage, which is why it does so much. You might notice the overall damage is a little low, and yes, it is a little low, and that's why the Acceltra Prime is better. I put some viral on it, it has impact overall, status isn't overall too high, but the radial has a lot of general damage, right? Look at that, the radial does more than the on-hit damage, so yeah, radial's good. That's why it's such a favored weapon, and it does some slash and puncture, right? It might not have an insane range, but it's still good enough to kill a lot of enemies. And I want to say that's why everyone really likes the Acceltra. The base build for it, it has 4 range still, and it does 44 radial and 26 total damage for non-radial, which means, yeah, that's why it's really low. But the crit chance at 32% chance and 2.8 crit multiplier is insane for a weapon that you can just farm off like a base node pretty fast if you get lucky. So it's so good, especially early to mid game, but it does fall off later since, again, low overall damage. But it deserves its spot as number 6 most used, and hopefully it does get replaced in this next little bit by the Acceltra Prime. But oh my god, it's so good. I love it. This has been my main weapon for a long time as well, so I totally get it. It's gonna be replaced by my Acceltra Prime. I gotta put in those hours. Maybe we'll do some 24/7 streams when there's drops, right, my people? Haha, right? Am I right? 24/7 Twitch drops. Hey, remember to follow and sub Twitch, YouTube, all that, you know. Epic Games Creator Code Pupsker, like, all that jazz. And off into the 5th weapon. 5th most popular weapon in Warframe, that's right, primary weapon is the Tenet Envoy. This is a very popular corpus because, you know, it's a Tenet Envoy. Corpus rocket launcher briefcase pretty much, and you know, that already has a great sound to it. It's just, I mean, it's a good rocket launcher with good AoE. There's like, what more do you want from me, right? It has insane crit, it has high AoE, and it has high damage. Goddamn, the Tenet Envoy is so good. Would recommend using it once you start farming up Sisters of Parvos. This is one of those AoE like explosive weapons, which is probably better end game, and it'll take a while to actually farm it up, but once you're actually able to get it, you should be able to do a ton of damage. Definitely love it. I've farmed it out once it came out with Tenet weapons. I put a lot of my mods on it, and it does a lot of damage, right? The AoE will hit most enemies. It doesn't need Prime Firestorm, but you can definitely use Prime Firestorm. It just by default has really good crit. So as you can see, enemies melt in general, so you shouldn't have really a problem no matter what stage in Warframe you end up picking it up. But normal enemies, Steel Path enemies, should crumble like absolute dust. If we take a look at the build here, it does a lot of damage. Radial does damn near 6,000 damage with a Prime Firestorm on. It has 11.5 range. Whoa! I have a crit and a crit Tenet crit ribbon, so that's why my damage is even better with that 8 multiplier, 118% chance. Multitude, aptitude, just because why not, right? I don't have Serration on. Firestorm, cryo rounds, force, sense, and delay. Merciless for more damage, so I don't really need Serration or anything like that. It builds up over these two, so we're good to go there. And that's why the damage total overall is also really low, because I don't have Serration to boost my theoretical damage stat numbers on the left. So your damage will still be really high, off the charts there. If I go to base stuff, it has really good crit chance stats as well at a 2.6 multiplier and a 28% chance, 24% status as well. So it is really good no matter what type of progenitor, no matter what type of Warframe you pick for this weapon, whether it be a heat, toxin, right? Whatever status you pick for it, you should still be able to kill enemies no problem. I chose heat, that's why it does heat. 160 damage overall, 1024 on radial, 8 range, fall off 80%. It's a godly weapon. Anyone should use this once you unlock the Sisters of Parvos and actually start farming these up. 100% does this thing absolutely kill through enemies, and I would use this over the Kuva Bramma, and it makes sense why this is number 5 and the Kuva Bramma is number 9, 100%. So it has a cool unique trait where you can guide the rockets. It's cool, but it's nothing amazing, so you don't need to actually use it, but it's cool. So yeah, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Our number 4 top weapon is the Tenet Arca Plasmor, another Sister of Parvos weapon, and a weapon that is probably in my top 5 or like top 10 most used. This thing absolutely claps. Think of an AoE weapon without the need for explosive. It just shoots a huge area range in front of you, kind of like an AoE spread circle in front of you, and just blast through enemies. The crit and just general damage stats on it are really good, but I don't think they're anything out of this world. It just has really high damage and really good AoE, and that's why it's a favorite. You can pick any single status Warframe for it, because it is a Sister of Parvos weapon, right? Heat, Toxin, always my go-to favorites, but hey, like, do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. This thing will spread house and absolutely eat through enemies once you go on Steel Path, once you go on normal. All you have to do is vaguely aim at the enemies and shoot. As long as they aren't too far away, that's the one annoying thing about this weapon, is the range could be larger, of course, right? But as long as the enemies aren't far away, this will just go through them. Just ethereally go through them, and they will cease to exist. So it makes sense why this is top 4 as a weapon. If we take a look at my general build on it, you'll see it's in, nothing's the best, nothing's perfect, but it's always great enough. We have Toxin, crit chance, cold, point blank, fire rate, cold. I could definitely swap these around, don't worry, but this is just what I'm doing for now to build damage. Primed Ravage and Galvanized Hell. Merciless, you definitely want to use Galvanized Acceleration for longer length of the shot. This is my general damage build. This is how it's going. The crit and crit status, it's all generally good, but it could be higher. But the total damage is really freaking high because you stack up a lot of damage right here. Once you build up your Merciless, holy shit, this thing's gonna be doing base 100,000 with crit. It's doing 400,000 total. Like, my God, that's gonna hit like a truck. It doesn't even need more modifiers, but hey, you throw on Warframe damage modifiers on top of this bad boy, other Warframe damage modifiers, this thing's going to kill anything and everything that moves within an inch of its life completely. The only annoying things are always going to be like Xmas and damage percent DR type enemies, of course, but I mean, who cares? That's just how the game is. This thing's going to kill. This thing is going to kill. So you can always swap around more mods if you feel like it, right? Because, like, dear God, status and modding depends on what type of status you get from Warframe on a Tenet and Kuva weapon. I just don't pay too much attention, and I don't care too much overall about this. But yeah, the damage is through the roof. You should be good. The base stats, quickly look at it. It's good crit, really high status, good enough crit chance. But I mean, you don't want it to be a status-only weapon. It's too strong for that because the total damage is a fucking 1,000. And it is base, for me, radiation heat. So that's kind of why I have my goofy build around there. So let me know what you think. It's a godly weapon. I love it. Definitely one of my top 5 most used, most loved weapons, right? So cheers, use it or lose it. Number 3, most top popular, used, awesome primary weapons, we have the Felarx. This is another Zariman Incarnon that takes good advantage of the Incarnon system, getting a 2000% 50-50 chance buff to damage if you do not crit. So it has the same gimmick as the Phenmor, which we talked about earlier. It's just a little stronger and a little better, okay? So people love the Felarx. Surprisingly, I don't use it a lot, but I've used it a little bit and definitely have maxed it out. And holy hell, does this thing make sense. It's a shotgun by default, and it clears through enemies no problem, which is good. But once you go Incarnon form, it morphs into a semi-auto, ethereal-looking Incarnon dual pistol, and you just shoot at enemies. It has some decent punch-through that goes with it, so it shoots through enemies, and the damage, like some other weapons, is insanely high. Like, the total damage is off the charts. Add that on to the 2000% damage boost, this thing's it clears house, right? Once you go Incarnon form, it just shreds through enemies like butter, like they don't exist, like absolute trolls they are, okay? This thing's a godly weapon, and it's understandable why so many people love it. Like, this 2000% damage buff makes so many Incarnon weapons god tier no matter what. So let's take a look at the mods quickly. The mods on the Felarx that I have lead up to these type of stats, and holy hell is it strong. Rhyme Point Blank for damage, Galvanized Statty because because you're gonna do status and you're gonna do damage. Galvanized Hell for multi-shot, right? Toxic Barrage, Frigid Blast, Scattering Inferno, Seeking Fury because I like reload speed and punch through, but you don't have to put punch through on. I really like it for the dual pistols though, so I would recommend punch through, but it's your choice, of course, right? And then you have Shotgun Fire Rate. There's a lot of other mods you can throw on it, right? Like higher damage status mods if you so choose, but you don't really need it. Either way, the damage on this thing is absolutely godly. Look at that Incarnon form. Total damage, 9,000. And it can get a 2,000% damage modifier. Like, get out of here. This thing's a god. It'll kill no matter what statuses you throw on it. Like, this is what I have. You want multi-shot, you want status, right? You want fire rate, stuff like that. Hell yeah. You could throw off one of these mods for a better one of these or a multi-shot 60% type mod. So, yeah. Base damage, non-Incarnon, absolutely ridiculously good still. Holy shit, dude. Damage per projectile, 12,000 with my build. Fucking A. This thing kills. Okay, love it. Beautiful. Love it. Look at that. Primary Merciless. Don't even have the Exilus adapter. Base stats are really good. 760, right? 600. Good accuracy, fire rate. Good overall enough fire rate. So it's really strong. And I would recommend it if you like it. You just have to put in the time to farm up Zariman. It's why maybe for some people it's not used as much, because you have to have the big amount of story quests complete and be far enough into the game to Zariman. But anyone who's mid-end game, you're using this if you know about it or have used it before, and it absolutely destroys. So yeah, get on it, chat. Get on it, okay? Get on it. That's right. Number 2, everybody, is the Ignis Wraith. This is a fan favorite, most popular weapon for so many years, and it is now number 2 most popular. It is no longer number 1. Why is the Ignis Wraith such a good weapon? It's because it's another mindless, a lot of the primary weapons are like this. It is another mindless, easy, very strong weapon. It has good status, it has good crit, and it just straight up shoots a cone of damage in front of you. This one is really, really highly used because you can get it early on in the game. It is usable in mid to and end game pretty easily as long as you have some good strong damage buffs on. So honestly, it's usable throughout any stage of the game. So it makes sense why it's so widely used. It is just everyone's fan favorite, lazy, no effort, annihilation, laser, fire, flamethrower, okay? It's so goddamn useful, and all you need is just buffs, right? You need good mods, and then if you're running Steel Path, maybe a Warframe buff or 2, and this thing will absolutely clap everything that it comes by. It's a flamethrower. It does fire damage by default. You only really need to throw viral on it and maybe have an armor shred if you want, but you don't need it, right? So it just kills, okay? It just kills. If I look at my general build on the Ignis Wraith, you'll see that, okay, good crit, good status. Hunter munitions, galvanized chamber, crit, right? Crit delay, vital sense, vile acceleration. So it'll shoot fast, apply more status, more damage, more status, and more damage. So it just hits enemies, builds up a ton of stacks of damage, and then they die. It'll hit them with heat and viral if they are affected by that, if they don't have armor, right? And it'll kill them. This weapon is so widely used because it's so easy to use and because it's so early on that you shouldn't have a problem. Anyone can get it in a clan now, making it even easier to get, right? And it's always been a fan favorite. So honestly, it just makes sense. It used to be like number 1, I think honestly 3, 4 maybe years in a row. Holy shit, flamethrowers are OP in a horde shooter game. Can you imagine that? Yeah, no shock there. So it is used to be fan favorite, but it has been crowned number 2, no longer favorite. The base stats, as you can see, are good, but they could be better. The low damage, it's still decent enough, but the low damage is at least brought up with the high crit multiplier, but it has a lower crit chance. It still has high status, which is why like the heat's really good. You'll do a lot of heat damage, but could be higher. So even with it not being the best gun out there, like with the best stats, it's still such a popular weapon because everyone likes it, because you get it early on, it becomes your favorite, you don't want to stop using it, and then you just use a stronger Warframe to make it kill Steel Path enemies. So it makes complete sense why it's always been MVP almost, but no longer is the Ignis Wraith MVP. It's number 2, so I love it, but no longer. Last but not least, we have the most popular weapon primary in Warframe, the Nataruk. Oh my god, why is this the most popular weapon? Many reasons. So this weapon comes from a quest, right? You do the new war, you kill some Kuva liches, you beat up some enemies, and you get the Nataruk. This is a really strong, really high damage, high crit, punch through weapon that you get from a quest. Warframe has the tendency to give you insanely good weapons from a quest, and with the new war quest, they certainly didn't disappoint with giving you the Nataruk. I think this bad boy easily hits over 100% crit, like no questions asked, with a good charge shot. Hit a perfect shot and your crits go in almost like 200% chance with a lowly 1 crit mod. So yeah, hit an enemy in the head with this thing, they're not surviving. Charge it and hit an enemy with any sort of mod setup, they're not surviving. This thing's usable once you get it forever, and you don't have to worry about ammo because it has infinite ammo. So it has almost no drawbacks other than the fact that it's a bow and you might not like using a bow and dealing with the like charge shot, perfect shot function on the Nataruk. It has a quick shot, which is lower damage, lower crit status, but still hurts. And then you have the charge shot, fully charged. And then you have the perfect shot, landing the damage shot within the area of the charged bow, right? Kind of annoying, but oh my god, are the stats on the perfect shot absolutely will kill the Archons no problem in theory. Okay, if we take a look at the mod loadout that I have for my Nataruk, you'll see I have some multi-shot, bladed rounds for even more crit damage when aiming. Doesn't need it, but I like it, okay. More cryo multi-shot ×2, gotta love it. Some more crit, some toxin, crit, damage chance, right? Fire rate, I don't think you need it, but it's nice having fire rate, so I'd definitely pick it. Then some vigilante supplies and primary merciless. So the damage of the Nataruk, absolutely bonkers, right? Just a quick shot has, with these mods, 60%, 4x, 48% at a 3,500 total. Charge a shot, that's 7,000 total. 4.8 with a 150 crit chance. Charge it perfectly. You have a 180% crit chance, 5.3x multiplier, 80% status, and 7k damage. And that's not even having a ribbon on. Could you imagine if I had a ribbon? Like, the ribbons for any of these top 10 weapons should sell for a high price no matter what. Acceltra, because Acceltra Prime. And if someone tells you otherwise, you've just been scammed. So these are insanely good, right? Stats are off the fucking charts. You're hitting so high. Red crits, orange crits, yellow crits, however you build. Base damage is good still, right? 450 on the quick shot. 900 on the other two, and then 60% status, or sorry, 6% crit with 2.4x crit multi off of the perfect shot, and 50% status, right? This thing is so good. It's a bow that has a charge shot mechanic, which is a good reason for me not to use it, because I'm lazy. Exactly, everybody. We're lazy, and we don't like using charge shot bows. And that is my own personal problem. But it is still a really good weapon. It does a ton of damage. It'll melt enemies like butter, again on Steel Path and regular mode. Yeah, pretty much no problem. Just buff it the more you want, and you'll do even better. So it's great. I love it. Life is good with the Nataruk. Let me know if you use it, if you use any of these weapons, and if you have anything to say about these weapons, of course, in the comments down below. Judge my builds as you will. It's not like they're perfect or can't be swapped around for whatever you feel like. And if you use the weapons, good for you. There's a reason why a lot of us do, and I'm assuming everyone uses at least a handful of these top 10 primary weapons if you've played the game for a little bit. Thank you all for watching, subbing, liking, using Epic Games creator code Pupsker. I appreciate it. Cheers, cheers.